This show is brought to you by our patrons at patreon.com/ElderScrollsLorecast.
Robots Radio presents The Elder Scrolls Lorecast.
Welcome to the Elder Scrolls Lorecast, a place where the Elder Scrolls community can come together to discuss the boundaries of our knowledge about the universe of the Elder Scrolls. Adventurers, we are back with this week's episode of the Elder Scrolls Lorecast. And if you are watching us live at twitch.tv/robotsradio right now, you might think that this is actually an episode of Tales of Tamriel and I'm just filling in for Hyperpixie. But that is not actually the case because I am your host, Tom Robots. This is, in fact, the Elder Scrolls Lorecast, and I'm here with Lotus of Doom. Lotus, welcome. How's it going?
Hello. Things are much better now that my internet is all cooperating and stuff.
Yay for internet. Yay. And
live servers.
And I said the Tales of Tamriel thing because with us today, and somebody I've been meaning to talk to for quite a while now. He heads up the Dungeon Crawlers Network and is one of the hosts of Tales of Tamriel himself, and also the most attractive host of Tales of Tamriel. Sorry, Lotus. Arkaniir.
Tough but fair.
Arkaniir, welcome to the show. How's it going?
It's going great. And it's just the hair. It's an illusion created by my hair.
My hair is wildly outclassed by Ark.
Yeah, but you've been growing it out lately. It's you guys have kind of a competition going at this point.
I gotta shave mine off, actually. It's driving me insane.
Saying things like that are making me upset.
Well, guys, I've been a guest on your show a few times. I've had, obviously, Lotus guest on my show. We had Hyperpixie on the other day, and Lotus is now a regular co-host of the show. But Ark, this is the first time we've had the opportunity to bring you on because we have to shoot electrons halfway across the world in order to make this work. But everything seems to be working out okay today. I've been wanting to talk to you for quite some time about your take on the lore and some of your thoughts behind these games. You've been deep into Elder Scrolls Online, especially, but I'm sure you've played some of the other games. So tell you what, why don't we dig right in and I'll start asking you some questions after this really cool sound effect.
Did it happen? I didn't hear it.
We don't see it on our end. The illusion has been broken.
This is where you get off. Come with me.
Can you guys not hear the sound effects now?
I'm not going to lie to you. That's the first time I've ever heard it.
Really?
Yeah. I think it was getting caught by the noise gate because it was getting like sort of in and out.
It's so funny.
Yeah.
Since I had listened to the show so long before I was on it, I just knew what they were. So I was able to just like, okay, perfect. I just don't hear it, but I know where it goes. I just totally broke that illusion and never saying anything.
Wow.
I opened the stream, then I remembered what it was. But when you said sound effect, I just expected something like boop.
And, yeah, like this one. Yeah.
Yeah, but that one I heard.
That's weird. It must be like a noise gate thing. Okay. So initially when I set these up, the other guests could hear them, but I'm going to have to play with my settings. Anyway, enough about the technicalities behind the show. So the first thing I wanted to ask here, and Lotus, if you have any questions as we discuss this, feel free to jump in and bring some questions because obviously you've been talking with Arkaniir a lot more than I have. So
don't worry. I've got a couple.
Oh God, I don't like the sound of that.
Well, let's start out with I think this is probably the thing that you're most known for, and of course I'm sorry, but we have to bring up that it seems to me, if you are a regular listener of Tales to Tamriel, that you're aware that you are definitely not for the High Elves, and you are not for wars and these kinds of things. You're almost better known for the things that you dislike in the world of Tamriel.
True.
Because they're memorable, and of course they get brought up all the time, right? And this is just kind of a conversation centers around these things, and jokes get made. But let's move it into the other side of things. What, if those are the things you dislike a lot about the lore, what are the parts of the lore that really, really intrigue you, or are the things that really draw you to the Elder Scrolls?
Mm-hmm. All right, so not something, well, it's not something specific about the Elder Scrolls lore, like certain parts of it, but the way it is built, basically. So to me, Elder Scrolls lore has, well, before that, I should say, I really love discussing things and arguing about them. I really love it, if you don't already know.
Yes.
And Elder Scrolls lore is a great opportunity for all that, because it is layered. So you have the common lore, the common knowledge that both the in-game common characters, the NPCs, like the farmer you meet or the guard you meet, the lore that they know, which is also presented to the player through the gameplay. And then you have the second layer of the lore that is written in the books, lore pages that you find, or, some more tricky quests that you get into in the games. And then so that's a bit more, less known part of the lore. And then you have another layer that is only, you only get through piecing together a bunch of other things. And it goes very in-depth, like the 36 Lessons of Vivek, the Tower lore, where the Dwemer went. And then you have the completely unknown part. Again, where the Dwemer went, or all sort of things.
The nature of, the true nature of the gods and those kinds of things. The stuff that's shrouded in mythology and is only talked about through metaphor and those kinds of things.
Yeah. The ones that are never really revealed, at least so far, in the games or in the lore, is just unknown completely. And none of these layers are set in stone. Unlike some other, universes like Dragonlance or even parts of Lord of the Rings, if at least the parts where we have access to Tolkien's work, for sure what has happened, but not in Elder Scrolls, because it is almost always given by people in the lore. So someone wrote a book from his perspective, or someone went through an experience and you find that, but it's never written in a meta level that, okay, this is what happened. It's always within the lore that we receive the lore, so we never know for a certain if something has actually happened or if there's a different account of it. And that creates this infinite amount of arguing, discussing, theory crafting.
Right.
It's just, you can go on forever about discussing a very simple subject in Elder Scrolls lore because it's never certain. You can never prove that you are correct. So it is great fun.
Yeah, we discussed this a lot. The unreliable narrator, the fact that you have differing accounts of the same events, even the dynamic nature of something like a dragon break makes things both true and false all at the same time. And that's, we can divide this into two different things. For the most part, the lore of the Elder Scrolls works a lot like the real world, where you just have to trust whoever wrote the book that that's the way things actually worked, even though no account is perfect. But at the same time, you include things like dragon breaks, and all of a sudden that's not like the real world at all, because at least in our reality, things are either true or false. They're not both. Right? Or at least
unless we go on with the multiverse theory, and then we have dragon break.
And then and then it gets into really deep philosophy. But at least for our own experiences with reality, things seem to either be true or false, at least on our level of existence and the things that we interact with, right? So yeah, it's interesting. And this is one of the things I've said many times, is that the lore is very interesting in the fact that it is told in a very realistic world kind of way. Whose account are you going to trust, or can you trust anyone's account? So yeah, it's a really cool dynamic. Now, when it comes to the peoples and places of Tamriel, is there a certain culture that you are more drawn towards? Are there certain peoples that you identify more with, or that you prefer to roleplay as?
Nords and Skyrim all the way.
Yeah.
Well, close seconds would be Redguards, but yeah.
So Nords and Redguards, like mannish men, manly men, different kinds of manly men from snowy places and from desert places.
From the exact opposite.
I mean, one is closer to my real life self, and one is closer to, what I would like to live in as a setting. So But yeah, so it's more so than the manly man part, but it's their understanding of honor concept. So both Nords and Redguards, they have a huge concept, like a very set in stone concept of honor and glory. And that's what I guess makes me feel closer to both of their cultures, because you have the sword masters of Redguards, and they are absolutely honorable people, even though from a different perspective. Like they don't have a concept of Sovngarde like Nords, but they're still in a different belief system, different culture. They believe that they must be absolutely honorable. And then you have Nords from a different perspective. They believe that unless they're honorable, they will get into Sovngarde. So honor takes a really huge place in both of their cultures. So yeah, I really like that about those two.
Mm-hmm. What about orcs then? Don't orcs have a similar code of honor?
I believe so, but for some reason I never felt close to the orcs. They are like, if I had to, I would again, orcs would be in the top 3-4 of my list of races I would get along with in Tamriel. But their way of life is a bit more, I guess, tribal than Redguards and Nords.
Yeah, right.
Like I love the concept of fighting, brawling, honor, glory, all that, but not at a tribal level like the orcs do. I still love my comfort and
the Redguards and the Nords are a bit more sophisticated in their society structures and those kinds of things than the orcs are. They're very much more tribal. Yeah, that is a big difference. And the orcs are most likely of Moorish descent, so they are a little bit different in that side of the culture divide, for sure. Now,
and weren't really actually player characters for several games.
yeah.
They've kind of been fleshed out more as the series goes, which, and not to get super off the rails, but like it's funny just going through some of the older games. They kind of get ripped on a little more than some of the other races, like in Tamriel, because Orsinium keeps getting sacked and everything, and throughout time. But it's kind of funny that as I'm playing through some of these old games, like orcs have been written into being a like full-fledged like cultural race, whereas in Arena it's just, here's an orc, it charges at you, they all look exactly the same, and they just bludgeon you. They're just a generic enemy. And same thing, it's unusual that you find an orc in Shadowkey. There's one that talks to you, and your character's like surprised, because it's like, oh my god, this orc isn't like trying to bash my skull in just because he's a prisoner. It's like, wow, this came a long way.
Right. It might as well be a skeleton or something. It's just a monster.
It was the equivalent of like skeleton-based enemy. Like, okay, here's here's your skeleton, here's your orc, here's your dragon, whatever, and then they became so much more.
Yeah. Man, this is what we're already deep with the lore and the trivia knowledge here. So one thing I didn't mention at the beginning of the episode is after the episode, especially those of you who are watching live and who are patrons, stay tuned for after the episode, because Arkaniir will be our contestant in Are You Smarter Than Twitch Chat? So we'll be doing some Elder Scrolls lore trivia. Well, I guess more trivia stuff then. So stay tuned for that. So Ark, how did you get started with Elder Scrolls? What was your entry into the series?
Right. So my entry was with Oblivion, but not by playing it, but more like watching it. So around, so I was born in 94. So when Oblivion was released, I was 12 years old, something like that.
Mm-hmm.
And at that time, I was mostly playing Counter-Strike, Call of Duty, earlier in the series. Age of Empires, the first Age of Empires, I played that a lot too, or like other console games and things like that. But I didn't have a concept of RPGs. And one day, we had one PC in the house at that point, and I would watch my older brother play games a lot. And one day I entered the room, he's playing a game, he is running in the sewers. And I started watching him play Oblivion just when he exited the sewers into that beautiful scene in Oblivion, with the island across, with the Islade ruins and the mountains.
The bright sunny day and the trees. Yeah. And the water.
Yeah. And that was like a shock at that point, because up until that I was playing, games that are not focusing on the world or the atmosphere, but more just the gameplay. Counter-Strike, what do you expect from it in terms of that scenery? Totally. And I was amazed and immediately on the spot I was like, what is this? What game is this? And he explained that, okay, this is an RPG, it's Oblivion. And I was hooked at that point, and I started playing Oblivion pretty much right then. And for the next several years, I guess I played Oblivion very heavily. Although I didn't understand much of it, because at that time my English was all over the place. I would understand the words and whatnot, but not full complex lore of it.
Wow.
That was my entry into,
That's really interesting you're right. Like you're from a different culture. English is a second language. Man, that game, I understood what role-playing games were. That was my entry into the series as well, but I didn't understand what the series was about yet. So everything was new. The fact that like vampires existed, I had no idea until all of a sudden I became one. And I was like, holy crap, I'm a vampire. That's a thing. So I kind of entered into it blindly as well, but I can't imagine also entering into it with, the hurdle of it being a second language. And like that, did you find that it was just more shrouded in mystery and that there were just more surprises when you didn't necessarily understand all the context of something, and then all of a sudden came face to face with something that may have been hinted at in the language, but you just didn't pick it up until you saw it? How did that work?
So I used to play, especially online games and RPGs with a dictionary by my side. Yeah. So it was a lot of, reading something, and then like opening up the dictionary, trying to figure out what it is, and then continuing to play. Most of the time, at that time, I didn't pay attention too much to the lore, actually, because it was a lot of reading through a lot of material that I didn't understand. But I was mostly trying to figure out what I'm supposed to do in the quest. So those were the parts I generally just translated and went about doing my quest. So the first, I guess a year or so of my Oblivion playthrough was generally just enjoying the quests and the atmosphere and the environment, the world, rather than the lore itself. Like, I don't remember much now, but I probably didn't even understand, the concept of the Imperial City or the war. What are we dealing? What are the Daedric princes? None of it probably made any sense to me.
Yeah.
Eventually, though, because I was constantly translating stuff and whatnot, I started, learning more and more English, getting more and more comfortable with it. And at that point, I also started playing other RPGs like Dragon Age. At Witcher, I tried to play. I never got to play it because Witcher first was too much for my early gamer self. But yeah, Oblivion was my entry into the Elder Scrolls and the RPG genre. And then from then on, it followed with obviously Skyrim, and from Skyrim into Elder Scrolls Online. And very recently, and by very recently, I mean like last year or so, I played Elder Scrolls 3 Morrowind. Only made it like 50 hours into it.
I like how that's barely scratching the surface. I only made it 50 hours in. I got through 2 quests.
Right. Yeah, 20 hours is trying to hit that first rat that you run into, and you can't quite hit it. Yeah. I'm always going to joke about that, because that's where I bounced off it, and I was like, I don't get it. Why can't I hit a rat? And then I was done. Yeah. Early playthroughs of Oblivion, you brought up the Daedric princes, and I was very confused about what they were, because they're not really demons, but they seem kind of demonic. And I didn't have a template in my head for what that was. Like, these are powerful beings that seem to have nefarious purposes, but don't always. And I couldn't place them. I'm like, are they supposed to be demons because they're Daedra? That sounds almost like demon. Like, what is that? It was always a little bit foggy to me at first. And I think that's part of what was so appealing about the lore, is that so much of it doesn't really reveal itself until you spend lots and lots of time in the world and really start to immerse yourself to the point where things start to kind of click and make sense, because it is foreign. It is very different. Yeah. So you went from Oblivion and then into Skyrim. So Skyrim comes out. Yeah. And by then you were more familiar with the world. You probably spent a lot of hours in Skyrim, I would assume.
Oh yeah, so Oblivion I played. I don't even know how much because back then I wasn't playing it on like any platform that was tracking my gameplay time. But I know that I played with a single character for like 2 years, and eventually that's actually a funny story that I will get to later. I got stuck in a dungeon and never were able to leave.
Oh no!
After 2 years of playing with the same character. But yeah, so several years with Oblivion. At that point, my English gotten a lot better as well because I was constantly playing games and mostly RPGs. So eventually it added up to a point that by the time I was playing Skyrim, I was able to understand everything that I read. So I started getting heavier into the lore as well with Skyrim.
Okay.
Starting to reading wikis of like UESP or the other Elder Scrolls wikis. Getting into discussions with friends because at that point I was in high school. Some of my friends were also, playing Skyrim, so we were getting into these discussions. So yeah, I guess I replayed Skyrim all the way until Elder Scrolls Online released. Just started over, added more mods, added different mods, started over again.
Yeah.
And that was just like 3-4 years of constantly replaying Skyrim.
Yeah, the Skyrim shuffle
games that released at that time.
That's what we all did.
Yeah,
right?
Pretty much.
Let's try these 1,200 mods and see how they work together. Oh, it crashed. Now my gameplay for the week was just loading mods. Yay. Yep.
Yeah.
Yep. So when Elder Scrolls Online came out, were you there for the big announcement? Were you on board with it right from the beginning?
I think I missed the initial announcement of it. I think I got into it with first beta. I don't really remember, but because by then I wasn't active in the online communities at all. Like I was playing single player games. I was aware of Twitch existed, but I wasn't really interested in it. I would just watch gameplay videos or whatever on YouTube. So I wasn't really active with the news and discussions communities online. So I missed the initial, oh, they are making an Elder Scrolls MMORPG hype. But when I heard about it, oh man, that was the first time I was really extremely hyped beyond, I'm excited about this, but how am I supposed to wait for this level hype? So I got into it with beta. And from then on, I was pretty much always on. That's how I met, during that beta phase, is how I actually first met the concept of podcasts as well. Up until then, I didn't know podcasts were a thing at all. And I was looking for content to watch or listen to during my classes, because at that point, I was in university. And I wasn't a good student. I was listening to a lot of Elder Scrolls stuff while in the classes. So I was looking up and I saw, the Elder Scrolls podcasts of that time, one of which was Tales of Tamriel. And with Tales of Tamriel, I started listening to it. At that time, they weren't going live with it. So I started sending in emails, doing some back and forth. And then they started doing it live, which is how I sort of got pulled into the concept of Twitch as well.
Yeah.
And from then on, pretty much continued to be part of the online Elder Scrolls on community, and it was just a whole new world, honestly.
Yeah, and it's a cool community. It's a cool community of people. I've had many conversations with people who, in fact, I had a conversation on our Discord today with some of our patrons about some of the differences between the single player focused games that Bethesda's put out and games like ESO and Fallout 76 that are kind of a mix of story and always online multiplayer MMO kind of elements. And they, obviously they're both a little different from each other, but this idea that I don't know the right way to frame this, but some people would rather have more single player games, and that's all they want. They don't want to try to play through that in an online setting, either because they don't want to be playing with other people, running through quests, doing the same stuff in an MMO style game, or they don't like the online always nature of the game, They would rather be able to just download the update and then launch it even if they're not connected to the internet. And I totally get that, because some people can't always be connected to the internet. And so they're missing out on some of those stories and things. But my perspective on it is, had they were going to launch a game that was an MMO. Bethesda was going to put out an MMO, and they were either going to do the Elder Scrolls or another IP they currently had, or would have to make a new IP. And if that's the case, I would rather have them create more Elder Scrolls stories, because that's what I like. I want to play through each of the expansions. I want to see what happens in the world. I want to get more lore and more understanding of the different cultures and the different people and that kind of thing. So that's what keeps bringing me back. Do you have the same kind of love for the stories, or are, like, you came from a background where it was a lot of game mechanics and competitive stuff? Do you find that you dive equally into different aspects of the game, or do you have certain parts of the game that you kind of line more up with more often?
So until recently in Elder Scrolls Online, I was a lot more story focused. For example, for the single player games, I never played them in the highest difficulty, because what I cared was not min-maxing my build or my character or the grind, but the story. So I would just drop the difficulty to easiest possible. I still play single player RPGs like that, by the way. I drop it to the easiest difficulty up until I have to fight a boss, because I want to get the experience of fighting a boss as well. But I don't want, for example, in Skyrim, you put it on insane difficulty and you get killed by rats, and I don't want to. I don't want my game time to be fighting rats for 5 hours.
Or God forbid you run into a troll. Hyperpixie Gaming, thank you for the raid. Thank you. Yeah, but like a troll in Skyrim on like max difficulty, it like heals faster than you can hurt it. If you're a new character, you just have to run away. There's nothing you can do. Yeah.
So I generally put everything to easiest difficulty, and then just absorb the story as much as I can. But with Elder Scrolls Online, I was also, for the longest part, was very story focused. But recently, and by recently I guess the last couple years or so, I started getting into more challenge runs. And now I have to be honest, I can't really go back to the story side of ESO as much as I like to, because those challenges are addictive. That's a whole different world for me. So yeah, like I haven't touched Markart's storyline, for example, yet, but I still love the stories. However, I am now getting more into the MMORPG aspect of Elder Scrolls Online.
Interesting.
But I'm pretty sure when we get a new single player storyline for Elder Scrolls, I'll just probably go back to my old self, put it on the easiest, and play it on my pace, just absorbing as much of the story as I can.
Interesting. Yeah, I'm very much into the story aspects of these games too. That's what keeps bringing me back into the game after I'll take a break and I'll play other stuff. Obviously, I do other shows about other games, so I have to spend some of my time here and some of my time there. But every time there's a new story, I always come back and I always check that part out. And of course, that draws me into some of the other aspects. And then I start diving into dungeons again, and maybe do a little bit of PvP and whatever the event is. So that's. Yeah, we have kind of a similarity there. I never quite drop the difficulty in the single player games down to easy. I always tend to keep it at just normal difficulty. Lotus, how do you play those games? This is interesting because everyone comes at this stuff from a different perspective, and it's interesting.
So it's kind of funny. I have this overarching thing of I like something of a challenge, but I don't usually like to find a reason to make myself miserable, despite what it seems like from playing old games or everything. But I have a real fascination with achieving things. So I'll play a game more often than not on like a normal, I'll just leave it as whatever stock is most of the time in a single player thing. And then if they put an achievement behind it or something, and suddenly it's like, oh, play the game on ultra nightmare difficulty. I'm like, oh man, I could play on ultra nightmare difficulty. And like, so that totally works on me. Like, and then I mean, I don't know. I guess sometimes I make my own achievements where I'm like, oh, I'll just play all of the Elder Scrolls games. There is no difficulty in the old Elder Scrolls games. Playing them is difficult enough. Right. So like that's but like more often than not, I don't know, like a standard challenge is fine with me unless there's like that competition aspect does make me much more interesting. I mean, for a while on Tales, when we all had fully functioning dungeon teams, where our schedules were meeting up, we were all battling out who could do speedrun no death hard modes of specific dungeons just to outdo each other on the show. So like scheduling became a bit of a problem. So we haven't been able to do that in a while, but like that little aspect really, I kind of do share that, but I also like to go through things. So it's a little of both. And I come from honestly a pretty similar background to Ark. Mine wasn't so much Counter-Strike, but I would be from the like battleground style of Call of Duty or Unreal Tournament or Quake and stuff like that. Mm-hmm. So I'm used to like, you know, everybody at each other's throats and it's you win or nothing. And then
right.
Now I don't know. I got old and now I play RPGs and I'm like, oh, these are great. Love these.
Yeah.
I don't know how I forgot Unreal Tournament.
Oh my god, I love
Unreal Tournament. That was great.
So good.
My prime when it came to like Twitch shooters was Counter-Strike Source, like 2004. That was about as good as I got. You know, I'm older than Ark is. But yeah, we played on a local server. And they would keep track of, say, 8,000 people who played on the server regularly, and I made it to 5th place on the server. And
wow, okay.
I was, you know, nice. I could tell like where my bullets were most likely to hit by like averages. They'd had like the body layout and where all the bullets are and your averages for hitting different body parts and with different guns and all that stuff. This is way before, you know, Go with some of the more technology stuff they do with that. But yeah, that's as good as I got. And then I was like, I'm not going to ever be better than this. And then that for sure was that was the truth. And then ever since then, I've never been as good at shooters. Yeah,
sometimes it's good to know though. Just be like, I peaked. There it is. I peaked. I can just look back at this fondly now. It's like,
yep. Back in my day, I could headshot a man at 50 yards in 2 milliseconds.
Exactly.
Yeah. Oh man. So, Lotus, do you have any questions for Ark? I've been kind of running the show so far.
I mean, I might have talked to Ark once or twice before this.
Yeah, just a few times.
Every now and then.
Sure.
But no, so I actually find it fascinating. I never thought of the fact of when you said playing through these for the first time, you needed to translate like in order to. That is like a level of hard mode that just surpasses like screw arena being difficult. That's like playing a game blindfolded. Like that is, I had never considered that. So it was, I don't know. That was like eye opening. When you said that, it just all of a sudden clicked that I was like, holy crap, that's intense. But, no, the only thing, just because we got a raid from our other Tales, because it's a Tales reunion here. Yeah. Our other Tales member, Hyperpixie. It wouldn't be a Tales show without me asking why you have to love the Aldmeri Dominion so much.
I don't. Why is this?
So let's get down to the root of this. What is it about the Aldmeri Dominion specifically that you dislike?
Altmers themselves.
Is it the like I'm so much better than everyone else attitude thing?
Pretty much like that arrogance. I mean, they all act in such a way that it's just immediately punchable.
Right.
The Aldmeri characteristic is just that, immediately punchable.
Yeah, it's like every time I see a picture of Joel Olstein, I want to just punch his shiny teeth. Yeah. Like
I just like that as an adjective, punchable.
Punchable. Yeah, that punchable face. You're like, the face needs a fist in it.
Pretty much, yeah. They are irritating. That's the thing, and they are a bane in the existence of Tamriel, as well as we see in the future eras of Elder Scrolls universe, aka 4th era, the War, the White Gold Concord, that they're not good. They are not good for the benefit of the, all of the people of Tamriel. So if we can get rid of them in 2nd era, we solve a lot of problems in several hundred years in the future. That's my logic there.
Yeah.
So it's kind of funny because, like, obviously the Alliance War joke has been going on with our show for a very long time. Mm-hmm. And it's kind of funny just because regardless of who happens to be on the show, as Tales has been on for almost 6 years at this point. I think there's been a decent amount of rotating cast, as the three of us none of us are original members of the show.
Yeah.
So it's funny though, because in that same regard, we have overlapping things where I'll agree with something with Ark, but then disagree with him on something else. And then Pixie will agree with me on something, but disagree with me on something else. And it's funny. I have such a thing where, like, I like that all of the races in Tamriel are the same. Like, I like them all, like, kind of equally. And that's in the way that I think they're all super flawed and a disaster.
Right.
But
like actual people. Amazing.
Yeah, exactly. It's amazing how realistic they
no
wrote
culture is just full of saints and angels, like we all have our darkness.
When you look at the faction things, I'm so gung-ho on the Ebonheart Pact just because I think that's like the best option pretty much. Mm-hmm. But it's funny in the regard of the Aldmeri Dominion, it's funny, it's that fourth wall, broken knowledge of what they become, even if it's just like in its infancy. They're so infuriating in Skyrim. And I mean, they're obviously designed to be like that. You're not supposed to sympathize with the fourth era, Thalmor or whatever.
Thalmor,
but thank you, Thalmor. So it always makes me curious, like, what if ESO had come out before Skyrim? Like, I wonder if, a lot of people like the AD. That's fine too.
Yeah.
But I always wonder if more people would like the AD if you didn't know what they would become.
Probably. It's kind of like, to jump in, it's kind of like the Brotherhood in Fallout 3 versus the Brotherhood in Fallout 4.
Right.
In Fallout 3, the Brotherhood are like the Shining Knights because they're Lion's Brotherhood, who is actually open to bringing people in, and they're trying to build peace in the wasteland. But in Fallout 4, it's Maxon's Brotherhood and not the original Maxon's Brotherhood. And they are very anti anything that's not human and very racist. And they're two different groups, really.
Not to turn this into a Fallout thing, but I also love Fallout. So the direct contradiction when you put the Brotherhood, despite their flaws, against in the background, you've got the Enclave, which is like, oh my, it's like
fascism, right?
Yeah, there's some pretty apparent evil going on, compared to some maybe a couple questionable things, and it becomes much more of a stark contrast in that situation.
Right. Which would be like the middle of the second era Aldmeri Dominion, right? Because you're like, they're not perfect, but they've got some good intentions compared to the Thalmor, which you're just like, no, they're evil. They're straight up evil. They're straight up evil.
Yes. They're directly. It's as directly correlated to just fascist Nazis. That's just what they are, like in parallel in Skyrim, and that's kind of supposed to be their point. They're not supposed to be likable.
Yeah. I remember giving them kind of the benefit of the doubt playing Skyrim early on. I was just like, these guys seem like they're not up to no good, but I'm not gonna just murder them as I pass them on this bridge somewhere.
Yep.
And then after playing the game for a few years, it was just like every time I came across them, it didn't matter if I was ready for the conflict or not. I was just like, these guys are getting straight up murdered on this bridge because I am not letting them walk around here. Yeah.
It is. It's very funny.
Thalmor is not the reason I hate Altmers either, because I hated them in Oblivion as well. It's just that
you definitely dislike the snooty atmosphere to them much more than I do. I'll find something about all of the people in Tamriel to be like, you did this.
Yeah.
Oh no, I mean, high elves, they could be saints, and I would still hate them because of their attitude. That's it.
I will not be talked down
That's
to.
the thing. Yeah, I mean, are Nords all like benevolent and saints? No, we spend our time just punching each other as well. But that's at least honest work. Like
drunken punching. that's their flaw.
A really fun quest.
That's how you become friends.
Yeah, right.
You brawl it out.
Yeah, they're brawl bros.
Nice.
We're brawl bros from the north. Oh man. Oh no. Okay, so like, where do we take the conversation here?
Yeah, I was gonna say, how do we steer that back?
How do we steer this back? Actually, you know what? I did have another question, and being that we are in December and announcements for last year's next year of Elder Scrolls came about roughly this time of year, and then we started getting actually we got a lot of speculation in December, and then we got confirmation, and then of course January there was absolute confirmation. Do you guys have any thoughts about where things might be going on the next year of Elder Scrolls Online?
That is actually a good question. I haven't thought about that at all.
Yeah.
Right.
So I had a pretty decent streak of nonsense guesses that kind of were way more accurate than they had any right to be. And I doubled down on the one that I pretty much figured was impossible, and it was definitely not the case for the final DLC. But it would seem weird to me if they would extend more. I mean, people loved going back to Skyrim. This was like a huge hit. It did help that people were stuck at home and were like video games, so that probably also helped their numbers too. But I mean, it was very, very hyped going back to Skyrim. But at the end of the Dark Heart of Skyrim this year, Skyrim isn't complete. Like, we don't have Whiterun. We don't have the College of Winterhold, which will basically be at the infancy stages around this time, which they more or less seem like they had scrapped it back in the day, but it wasn't an active development. But for a long time, spellcrafting was suggested, which if they're ever going to bring that in, it's most likely going to come with the College of Winterhold, if they can ever pull it off. I don't know what the original plan was, or if there were clearly there were issues, or they would have brought it out sooner. But I'm just curious. It seems weird to not finish Skyrim with two such incredibly notable places still missing. So I'm curious if there's still more to come with Skyrim, but I'm not I don't know how I would feel if we started another year in Skyrim. I feel like that might fatigue people.
Like they might need to take a year gap between those.
Yeah, something.
Yeah.
Right.
Yeah. Well,
they didn't take a year gap in Dominion side, so they did Somerset and then elsewhere, which was
that's
back
true.
To back, both in Dominion,
yeah, Dominion
zones, if you will.
Yep.
Right.
Now they were different cultures of it, so one was more Khajiiti focused, and one was nasty high elves, but
so
they had two Dominion expansions back to back. Now I don't think we will be in Skyrim again, but if they do another expansion in Skyrim, I would obviously be very happy and wouldn't be surprised, because we already had two same zone expansions back to back before.
Right.
So here's a question: with all of the speculation for the Elder Scrolls 6 being in somewhere like High Rock, and large swaths of High Rock also not being fleshed out yet in Elder Scrolls Online, do you think they're going to avoid going to High Rock in order for that map to be first revealed in the Elder Scrolls 6? That's another thing I've noticed about the layouts of the world.
That's a good
that might be, and Todd is clearly in charge of all of this, so he might be saying, okay, we've got some High Rock in here, but let us craft the rest of this, and then you guys can mirror it in a later expansion for Elder Scrolls Online, because the mainline games are the priority if one is given priority. Right?
And that's actually kind of interesting, because sectioning off what is missing from, High Rock would be the Daggerfall Covenant faction of the Alliance. They've fleshed out a lot up there outside of that. So they're kind of limited specifically in what they could do there. Same thing with the Dominion. It's, a lot of it's been covered now. So I believe the most generous portion of the map is still Ebonheart, but they did Murkmire as one of the areas. It was the Zone DLC. And despite the fact that Murkmire is very, very good, it seemed like it fell a little flat in the overall scheme of things. People just kind of didn't, I don't know. It didn't seem like it got the fanfare of some of the others.
Yeah, I think people are a little bit less excited about Argonians. I think that's part of it. Yeah. But there's definitely that part of the map that's up there. Now, I've got a third idea here, because I think it would be good to have, if they did more Skyrim, I'd be happy with it. If they created a gap of the year, like you said, I think that would probably be a good idea as well. I'm doubting that they're going to go to High Rock. Here's an idea that, I've got two other ideas, actually. One, what if we go back to an Oblivion zone that's kind of like Cold Harbor?
Apocrypha.
I would like that, actually.
That could be really cool. And that would open up them the ability to do anything. I mean, I
agree. And I loved the start of the Spiral Skyne when we got to go there for the first time, because we had never been able to go to the Spiral Skyne, at least in any of the Elder Scrolls games I've ever played. That place was creepy as hell. So I would love it if we did more with that, since it's kind of been started.
Yeah. So there could be something like that. But then another crazy idea I had was, what if they move time forward and adjust Cyrodiil?
There is, yes, please.
Like, what if they remake parts of Cyrodiil, and you could still have PvP combat in there. You could go into PvP version of Cyrodiil, but then you could also go into PvE version of Cyrodiil that actually has towns and cities and things, and so you start kind of rebuilding
especially
that.
Since the campaigns are, separate. You choose to enter that instance when you're going in there. And granted, it's like a zoning thing, but that would be interesting to have like a more PvE focused version of Cyrodiil. Right. And also there's more to Cyrodiil that they can still flesh out. They did a little bit with the Gold Coast, with the Dark Brotherhood DLC. Right. So it's like, there's still more to stretch into.
And you got the city, you've got, and there's, I mean, anybody who's played Oblivion, you do any one of those cities and they're going to have memories of like being in Kavach or being in, wherever. And all of a sudden that's, it's almost like going back to Markarth, right? It's a place you're familiar with. And it would be really cool to see what the people look like there. But instead of running around killing other PvP players, you actually get to interact with the, the town and the city and deal with like the war issues that are going on with their side of the map and all of that kind of stuff, because there's still people who live there, there's still stuff going on.
As you go toward, without necessarily completely barging into Daggerfall, you can also explore the Colovian Highlands and stuff like that. There's room to work with in that whole thing. Without,
I don't want Colovian Highlands though. I want Nibene Valley.
I was going to say, you let your. I know
I am a more Nibene side of Cyrodiil.
So for that matter, though, I'm down with that. Let's go with the Nibonese then. But either way you want to go, like there's some options to work with. Which I think that would be cool to.
Okay, here's an idea then. So Zaz has not been reluctant with bringing back dead characters. So they just pop out left and right.
Yeah. Right.
Now, one thing, how spoilery can we get here? Like Elsewhere spoilers.
That's fine. I mean,
right?
We are a lore cast. We are a lore cast.
Yeah,
so we do kind of talk about everything.
Other than the literal most recent.
Yeah, we're not going to talk.
I haven't done the most recent myself anyway, so I can.
Yeah, you can talk. You can talk elsewhere. That's fine. That's fine.
Okay. So Obnortarn at the end of Elsewhere, he sacrifices himself, but we never really see him actually die.
Right.
But he appears that he dies.
Now, it looks like he explodes, but we don't see him die.
Yeah.
Right.
Yeah, I mean, in the far, like, we see the explosion, but not Abnur Tarn in the explosion because we watch it from afar
Right.
after we go through the portal. Now, I don't want Abnur Tarn to be brought back into the game because then all my emotions from him dying goes to waste. I'm like, why did I feel all those?
Yeah,
But
right.
Abnur Tarn is also from the Tarn family, is from Nibene.
Yeah.
And
What if-
Cyrodiil is in turmoil, and Abnur Tarn was hell-bent on restoring Empire.
What
So
if?
we
What
get a
if?
Nibene expansion. Yeah.
What I'm going with this here, and I'm so yes. And what if he doesn't come back, but we deal with his family grieving him, and it starts with like the ceremony of his death and family members vowing to further his goals, right? And of course, you have like
I was gonna, yeah.
a younger,
that would be way more solid because I love where this could go.
yeah,
Especially because, man, this is this is going to be way back to promotional material before Elsewhere dropped. So bear with me for a minute. The original letter sent out was Abnur Tharn talking about trying to end the Three Banners War, and it was a literal letter that was sent with the clicky little wrathstones that some of us got.
yeah,
And it was an actual letter sent out with him talking about ending it. That could be an interesting twist if they were to bring some type of PvE element into it where it's like, okay, this is like toward the end of the fighting or something like that, which is the Three Banners War. So
Yeah.
I don't know.
That kind of storyline with, robots added as well. I would love that because it's Nibene, it's Tarn family, and it's Cyrodiil expansion, all of which together, that would be my ultimate expansion idea for now, at least.
Mm-hmm.
I mean, they might announce something that will blow my mind, and I could go, oh, wow, this is better. But at this point, my best combination would be exactly that. Getting more involved with the Tarn family.
Yeah, maybe he has some really cool like nephew or somebody who doesn't have as big of a stick up his butt, and then people actually like him.
Well, and it's so funny because he's so polarizing.
Yeah. Yeah.
And personally, Abner, I'm not really of the Abner fan club or the Abner hate fest. He's fine. He's pretty funny. However, his relatives are obnoxious.
Yes. Yes.
As annoying as Abner can be from time to time, screw all of his relatives. They are awful.
Right.
I mean, two
Especially
Tarns that we know were, so one is Septima Tarn, which is the battle mage leading the 7th Legion, if I remember correctly, and they are basically loyalists to Molag Kina, and we fight them. I think it was in Daggerfall storyline. I don't remember well. And then obviously we got Elsewhere with who was it? What you?
His sister.
Who?
Yeah.
Yeah, I forgot the name.
Clivia.
Something Tarn.
Yeah, it's Clivia Tharn, and she really outdid herself. Like, I feel like maybe not enough people grasped how. I mean, the lore in Elder Scrolls is pretty warped as is, but the very oh my god, that specific scene where she mummifies and resurrects Chimera's parents to kill her.
Yes.
I'm like,
you're right.
good God, that's dark.
Yeah.
It's like she has no scruples about just being the worst. And then, yes, as brought up in chat, as everybody who's ever seen any of my arena streams, screw Jaegerbomb Tharn. He is the worst.
Yeah. I think it would be really cool, though, to have a character like I love character development in stories. So to have somebody who's just as terrible as these people go through some sort of character arc in the next expansion and become somebody who's, like, I'm going to avenge his death, and then comes to find out that, like, no, he freaking saved the world, and then is now motivated to, actually make themselves a better person and kind of change the way things go. It'd be kind of a neat way to introduce a new character.
Also, slight correction because Dog caught it. I had that backwards. Clivia was in the White Gold Tower, the one screaming about my scroll. The scroll is mine. It was Euraxia that I meant.
There we go. Euraxia.
All these names.
Yes, I mixed up the Tharn. So yes, Clivia is actually White Gold Tower dungeon. Euraxia was what I meant. So good catch on that, Dog. Thank you.
Thanks, Dog. That's Dog Bark. from
the Red Diamond.
The Red Diamond Clear. I was actually wearing their T-shirt on the stream I did yesterday. Well, I think we've solved all the problems for anything that could potentially be a future update to Elder Scrolls Online. So good job, everybody. Yay, we did it.
We came up with the best idea. Now developers are scrambling together to actually make it. And my God.
Right. Oh, we have to develop this in less than a month. Go. So we can put an announcement out there.
Clearly, that's what they do. Whenever we've had devs in our streams on Tales, I mean, we clearly floated them gold that they paid lots of attention to and didn't immediately be like, wow, they're all morons.
Well,
going back to the idea of like Hyrule not making an appearance in ESO until Elder Scrolls 6 potentially, considering that is, like, I assume Elder Scrolls 6 is quite a bit into development at this point, at least the general layout and how it will be and whatnot. I assume them to be complete.
Yeah.
So instead of waiting for Elder Scrolls 6 to mirror into Elder Scrolls Online, what they could do as a possibility is mirror Elder Scrolls Online into Elder Scrolls 6 as well. If they already have the idea for Elder Scrolls 6 and how Hammerfell and Hyrule would be, they could just bring it into Elder Scrolls Online as it would be in Second Era, and then have the nostalgia effect or whatever in Elder Scrolls 6. Sort of do it backwards. I can see that being a sort of... Yeah, and use Elder Scrolls Online basically to market Elder Scrolls 6. Use the MMORPG to market single player game. The opposite of what they did before with, single player to MMORPG.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, no, that's a solid point. They could do it the other way around. That would make a lot of sense. Man, too many options. I'm sure we're going to be very shocked when they actually announce it. And they'll be like, it's the year of this thing. And we'll be like, oh, we should have seen that coming. Oh. That's of course that's it.
Solge time.
Oh man,
we're going back to the Clockwork City. What? Really? Okay.
Really? That's a bold change.
Well, Arkaniir, thank you for joining us. This has been super fun. It's been way too long for me to get you on here. I should have invited you a long time ago. Is there anything you want to talk about that you're doing, or anything in the works that you want to share, or any ways people can get a hold of you?
So, getting a hold of me, you can find me at anywhere that is Arkaniir, Arkhanir, because it's a made-up name. So, if you see it, it should be me. As for what I want to say,
and it's very elvish. I want to make it. It's very elvish. Have you noticed that?
There it is.
Why would you say that?
Go on.
Come on. It is not. How it is. It's a pretty blunt name.
Man. You fit right in, Tom.
Arkaniir. All right. Come on.
Now I'm sad.
Oh, I'm sorry. I'm sorry. I was just joking. It's very Nordish.
Too late, Tom. Too late. I'm not coming back again.
Oh no. I ruined everything.
Yeah, I mean, anything that I'm working on, not specifically that I can think of. But yeah, I love talking Elder Scrolls lore. I'm always ready to discuss it. And most of the time, like 95% of the time, I will bend the lore to be in line with my own objectives and things like that. So if you come into a discussion with me, don't expect objectivity. I will bend every single piece of lore that can be bent to the Nordic narrative.
At least you're aware of it.
So there's that.
That's good. Yeah. You're honest.
I'm not hiding it. I will do it.
There's bonus points for being self-aware.
Yeah, I mean, that's the beautiful part of Elder Scrolls. No one can come and say, hey, you are wrong, because, hey, it's just your narrative. I'm not wrong.
Yeah, my Dragon can totally happen this way.
Yeah.
Well, but yeah, thank you for having me. This was a blast. As I said, talking lore is always the most fun aspect of Elder Scrolls. So yeah, thank you for having me.
Yeah, and listeners, viewers, you guys should go check out Tales of Tamriel. If you haven't yet, what the heck are you doing? Go listen to their podcast. It's available everywhere. And Lotus, do you have anything cool going on you want to talk about?
Not really. I'm just chugging more through Arena. I've been home a decent bit with just obviously the state of everything. Had a couple straight days off, and I don't know. I guess the only thing that I can say in triumph is after 7 hours of streaming Arena, I made it out of the Crypt of Hearts. So that was a huge thing that I was trying to do for three streams. It took me to get out of there, which is awkward as hell.
Solid
the
work.
game is just that game is relentless. Relentless.
I'm kind of sad you actually got out.
A few people were because it had just become such a running joke. The only side effect was that the next dungeon I went to Argonia, and I didn't even get into a city. Like, I got to the city, I decided to go to Blackrose, the province, which is an arena in Elder Scrolls Online. As soon as I walked into the city, I was murdered. So, I mean, nothing really changed. That was supposed to be a safe zone. So, arena being arena.
Nice. Well, you guys know what I'm doing. I've got everything going on here with all the different lorecasts, the Fall lorecast, the Dungeons and Dragons lorecast, the Cyberpunk lorecast, which is coming out in a week, Cyberpunk 2077, a week from now. If you haven't checked out the Cyberpunk lorecast and you want to catch up on the background of the world and all that stuff and any of the recent news, we've been talking about all that stuff over there. And any of the other shows on the network, you can check out at robotsradio.net. And if you are watching right now or you are a patron, don't go anywhere, because we are about to test Arkaniir's trivia knowledge about Elder Scrolls and Elder Scrolls Online, both things, coming up in our game show, Are You Smarter Than Twitch Chat? So again, everybody, thank you for being here. Adventurers, stay safe out there, and we will see you next week. Same time, same place. See you guys later.
Bye, everybody.
Bye, everyone.
Thanks for listening to the Elder Scrolls Lorecast. All sounds and music are owned by Bethesda Softworks or ZeniMax Studios, and no copyright infringement is intended. If you have something you'd like to contribute to the show, please reach out to us at elderscrollslorecast@gmail.com or on Twitter @ESOLorecast. If you'd like to help support the show, check out the rewards you can get at patreon.com/elderscrollslorecast. I really appreciate you listening, and I'd love to hear from you soon. And thanks to our patrons for support, especially our Tier 5 patrons, including Noodle Al Dente.
You've been listening to a Robots Radio podcast. Smart shows for interesting people. Check out all the shows at robotsradio.net.